Hi beautiful people, welcome back to Your Welcome. I'm so excited to be here per usual. I hope everyone is having a great day, a great week. I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind this week. It was a major aha moment for me, maybe like 6 months, a year ago, and that's about change and just experiencing the change and the progress of our inner work. So a lot of times when we're doing inner work, we don't necessarily see that other people have done that work as well and that it has taken them time. I remember when I started doing my inner work, or even before doing my inner work, and I would see people's lives, whether that's in person or on social media, and just think, wow, like, have they never experienced challenges? Have they never gone through anything? How do they get to where they are? You know, just admiring where they are in their career or their relationship or just who they are individually. And I remember thinking, like, they must have never experienced any challenge in their life. Like, they must have it so easy. They must just be so lucky. And that is just not the case, because in life, we all experience challenges. We all experience hardships. We all experience things that we would love to not have to deal with. But at the end of the day, what separates you from those people is perseverance, right? What separates us from the people that we inspire to be is that they've done the inner work on themselves, and we just haven't seen it. We just see the results. So now that I've done the inner work and I still see people that I admire, that I aspire to be, instead of saying, wow, they must have it so easy, I tell myself, wow, they must really have done the work on themselves. They must have done so much work on themselves and have reached the point in their life where the work that they have done on themselves is manifesting and is presenting itself in our 3D world. And so instead of thinking like, oh, they just must be so lucky, I'm like, no, I'm lucky too. I create my own luck. I create my own ease. And I do that by doing the work on myself, like I said, and taking the challenges head on and releasing all of the negativity and the need to struggle. Because I think that we also think in order to have a great life that we need to experience struggle. And that's just not true either. Change happens in increments. It doesn't happen overnight. And so even though we might see celebrities or people that you aspire to be, because honestly, celebrities aren't who I aspire to be, because I know now that I've done the inner work that they have gone through some stuff. Like, everyone has gone through some stuff and everyone is still going through things. And if you've ever even watched a biography, or have read a biography or listened to a biography of a celebrity or someone who you aspire to be, you would see that they experienced a lot of challenges and they've had ups and downs in life and in their career. I recently watched the Pamela Anderson documentary, and when I say it just changed my mind so much, I think I was having a sort of hard day, because again, we're not exempt from having hard days or just challenging days. And I was like, you know what? Let me put on like some sort of inspiration, something that is going to inspire me. And so oftentimes when I feel like that, I either turn to YouTube, an Audible, you know, or to a documentary about like someone who I aspire to be, or just someone who is in that limelight, right? So I watched a Pamela Anderson documentary, which I would so recommend because it was so good. I think when I thought about Pamela Anderson, because I was so young when everything happened, and I mean, I think some stuff I wasn't even born, but I just always thought of her as a sex symbol and nothing more. There's so much depth to her, I will say that. But moving back to the topic at hand, in her documentary, she experienced so many challenges that were outside of her control. So many things happened to her that instead of her thinking like, why did this happen to me, and living in struggle, she thanked all of her challenges. She said, I'm so grateful that I went through everything that I went through, because it brought me to who I am today. And that is really the key to it as well, is honing in and no longer regretting all the things that happened to you, because they happen. It's the past. And I struggled with that for so long and would ruminate on all the mistakes that I made. And so now, even when I have like a negative thought, or I think like, oh, if I never did that, or if I was never with that person, or if I never was at that job, or if I never moved to this place, instead of ruminating and thinking about that, I'm like, it's the past. The past happened, and clearly it happened to teach me something. Because every challenge in life is here to teach us something, even if it's to teach us just to keep going, to keep pushing on. And that is something I also remind myself of. And I remember when I was starting to do the inner work on myself, and I was having such a hard time thinking, will this work ever present itself in the 3D world? Will I ever feel better? A couple of years ago, when I was going through a terrible breakup and makeup, which I should have never gotten back together with my ex, if I'm honest. But when I was going through that, and at the same time experiencing a family loss, I was my most depressed and my most anxious. And I realized that I have been anxious and depressed, you know, not really, I would say situationally depressed, but anxious, like my anxiety, my entire life. And I had a lot of inner work to do. And when you experience anything that creates an anxious attachment, which I talked about in my last video, I would really highly watch that if you also are experiencing an anxious attachment style, or even just a feeling of lack. When you are in that mode, it's hard to see anything else. And so when you take yourself out of that and you start doing the work, it's not easy. It's not easy, and you really are able to see like, wow, like that's why this happened, or why this happened. I pretty much learned that I needed to love myself more. I needed to build myself up more. I needed to have more self-worth about myself, more discipline. I needed to balance out the scales of masculine and feminine energy. I needed to think more positive about my life. I needed to know that I was worthy. I needed to know that good things are allowed to happen to me, that the other shoe doesn't have to drop. Just because something happened to me in the past doesn't mean that's going to happen in the future. And the way that you can control it is by doing the inner work and controlling the thoughts that you have now. Because the more that you control what you have going on inside of your brain, the easier it is to close the gap, like I say, from where you are to where you want to be. And future you is waiting for you. They are eager for you to be in that space. And so I often think about future me and how me getting better 1% every single day in whatever way that looks like. And that also includes rest, because I had this mentality that I always needed to be working, that I need to be working hard, that if I'm not doing something that I'm not worthy. And that's just not true. Especially as females, we need to make sure that we are resting and honoring that we need to rest. And so again, in whatever form that looks like, getting 1% better every single day is going to impact your life in such drastic ways that you might not see right now, but future you understands. And me 2 years ago is so different than who I am now. Where I am now is where I wanted to be 2 years ago. And so I know where I am now, 2 years from now, me in that future is coming as well. And I'm continuing to close that gap. And I remember when I was my most depressed, and sometimes it's even not challenging for me to talk about in a like, I don't want to be vulnerable way, but like in a gratitude way. Like, I know I'm PMSing this week as well, but I have cried so much this week, just tears of joy, just because I feel so different. Like the things that used to bother me, the things that used to get to me, just don't get to me anymore like they used to. I'm easily able to wash things off. And of course, there may be other things that come into place that, because, you know, new levels, new devils, I always say that. But at the end of the day, I know that I can handle them because I've built a foundation. I built a foundation of my self-worth. I built a foundation of self-love. I built a foundation of discipline. And that's really where it starts. And when I was at my lowest, I remember looking at a TikTok video, and this girl was talking about how she also experienced a family loss. And she was just saying how she started doing the work on herself, and she didn't see the results at first. You know, you think day to day, like, where are the results? Like, what, like, where are they? Like, I'm doing the work on myself. When am I gonna feel differently? And one day she just woke up and she felt differently. And I really, at the time, didn't resonate with it. I wanted to, but I'm like, okay, like, let me entrust in this. Like, maybe I'll feel differently 6 months from now or a year from now. And it honestly took me, started really doing the inner work on myself, I would say 2021, but 2022 is where things hit a like all-time low for me. And so that's when I really started, beyond just thinking about manifestations and journaling about like what I wanted out of life, I started thinking about where I was and who I was and what I was doing to keep me in the space that I didn't want to be in. And I really built myself up step by step, day by day. I did the work on myself to the point where I was able to break up with my ex and leave that relationship behind, knowing that no longer served me. I was able to leave friends behind that I knew weren't serving my highest good. I was able to stop doing behaviors that I knew weren't serving my highest good, or adding in behaviors and habits that I knew were going to help me. I was able to call in and pray to God and my angels and call in my dream pet. I was gonna say child because he is my child, but my cat, like even things like that I was able to do because I was in a different space. And it really happened that way. You really just wake up one day and you're like, wow, I just feel so differently. And even now, because the inner work, like I said, never stops. Even now, I wake up weekly, monthly, and I have a new cognitive like moment of clarity. Like, wow, this used to bother me so bad and it doesn't bother me now. Like recently, I've always been afraid of like judgment and backlash, or I used to be. I would say used to be. And so it would be hard for me to be vulnerable, to make jokes, to be on TikTok and just be, to just play. And I made a post and it was supposed to be funny about men and social media, which I don't like men with social media unless it's business. And of course, if you like have like a few life updates, whatever, but I'm just not big on men and social media. That's just who I am. But I made a joke about it, and then I get flooded with all these comments from men about this and that, just negative things, just things that were taken out of context, things that were just like extreme. And old me would have probably deleted that post. I probably would have hidden shame, thinking like, oh, my family saw it, my friends saw it, like what are they talking about me? They're probably geeking about me and wishing on my downfall. I no longer think that way. I was like, I don't care. I even went as far as to, just like you would with positive comments, I commented on everyone and sent them all love. Purely like knowing like, okay, there's clearly something going on for them to feel like they needed to comment on a female's post, like something crazy, because I clearly triggered them in some way. And I realized the more I go on my journey of inner work and the more I do the work and I spread, the tools and the techniques that have helped me, I'm going to receive backlash, but I'm also going to receive positivity, or the amount of encouragement and good words and positive things, messages I get are going to be 10x the negative ones. And so in that moment, I realized, wow, I'm different. Something is different here. And it's the work that I did on myself. And I'm far from perfect. None of us are perfect. Striving for perfect is not the goal. And I also have I don't know if I posted it on YouTube, but it's definitely on Spotify and Apple, about perfectionism and just releasing the need to be perfect. But I realized I'm not perfect. I don't strive to be perfect. But at the end of the day, the inner work that I'm doing on myself is presenting itself in the outer world. And I often think, because I think about like my ancestors and how the work I'm doing on myself is making them proud. I think about my godmom and my grandma and my pop who passed away, and how they're in heaven and they're cheer me on every time that I reach a new level mentally, every time I reach a moment of clarity, every time I put myself first, every time I set a new boundary, every time I'm vulnerable and I make posts like this, I make them proud. And that keeps me going as well. And if you really think about it like that, and of course, again, you're not here to please anyone, you're here to please yourself. And our passed away loved ones aren't judging us. If anything, they are guiding us and supporting us in the direction of our dreams. And so I also remember that as well, that all of the things that I've been through did not break me. And a part of that is because God, my ancestors, and my guardian angels protected me through it. They guided me through it. They supported me through it. And even in my hardest times, they have been there for me. They have never disappointed me. And if you remember that as well, it can be easier to continue to do the inner work. And remind yourself of the life that you deserve. And I had to be real with myself. The life that I deserve, I wasn't matching that at all. I was living in fear. I was living in lack. I was anxious all the time. I was depressed. I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do. It was affecting not only my mental, but how I was presenting myself in the outer world. Because I wasn't doing the inner work, what I was doing on the outer world wasn't equaling where I wanted to be. And you have to be real with yourself, because I wanted to always be successful in the YouTube space. I always wanted to be successful in the mental health space. But what was I doing to like make that happen? What was I doing? And I wasn't being consistent. I wasn't being disciplined. And a part of consistency and discipline is doing the inner work. Because when you do the inner work, you understand that in order to get where you want to be, yes, our angels, God is supporting us and in our manifestations, but we've got to meet them halfway with our thoughts, with our actions. We've got to meet them halfway with it. Because if they are just doing all the work, and I will always say this, I'm like, they threw me a few bones, right? God threw me a few bones, like here, because, you know, we don't want you to completely suffer. But I wasn't doing the work that was needed to really, truly live the life that I wanted. And so when I started my journey, just seeing the outer world change is a beautiful thing. And again, you might not see it right away. You might not see it right away. You might see it right away. It just depends on where you are mentally and how easy it is for you to shift from negativity to positivity. But it took me a long time. It took me years to get to the space that I am. And so I want to encourage you, because it's a journey. Life is a journey, right? And we're not here to get it right all the time. We don't even know like where we will be 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 months from now. We have an idea, we might visualize where we want to be, but God might have something else in mind, or we might change our minds and decide like, actually, I've honed in on this and this is not what I want. So the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal isn't to know exactly what you want or anything like that, but it is to know who you are, to identify who is India. Who are you? What do you want out of life? And to realize that doing the inner work will get you there. That by honoring where you are, by believing in yourself, you will create more abundance in your life. And that is something that I constantly remind myself of too. And it took a long time for things to show up in my outer world, if I'm honest. Again, I felt like God threw me some bones, you know, some deals, some opportunities, you know, the right people, being in the right place at the right time. But I realized that even when I was thrown those bones, how did that happen? And it was because I was in a temporary state of joy. I was in a temporary state of gratitude. I was in a temporary state of mind of knowing who I was and having, you know, my self-worth intact. And so the more that you are able to easily shift your frequencies from negativity to positivity, or to have gratitude for even the hardships, to have joy, to spread joy, to know that you are worthy of all the good opportunities, the easier it is for those things to come in. And again, it took me a long time to realize that. It took me a long time to see that, because I would easily just go back into feeling negative. Like I would maybe manifest something again, like God throwing me a bone, and then I'd be like, okay, well, and I would just go back to thinking negative, go back to all my old habits. And that's not how you maintain the life that you want. You maintain the life that you want by doing the work and continuing to do it and to sticking with it, not by reverting back to who you were, because who you were wasn't serving you. And I remind myself of that too. Like, what do I lose by being positive? Nothing. Like, what is the problem with being positive? Absolutely nothing. I'd rather be positive all day, every day, than to be negative. And that doesn't mean to be positive when you are experiencing a feeling of grief, or you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling sad, or anything like that. Please feel how you feel. allow yourself to feel it, to release it, and to get back to that higher state of being. So I hope that this episode was helpful. This was my reminder to you that the work that you're doing on yourself is going to impact you in the best of ways. Keep going, keep reaching for the best, and I'm here with you to support you through it. If you have any comments or anything you'd like to share, any questions, I'd love to answer them. If you'd like to talk more about inner work and other tools that I've done in order to shift from where I was in 2022 to where I am now, I'd love to share them. Let me know. I have a ton of content already, whether that's on YouTube, on Apple, Spotify, my podcast channel. So please feel free to tune into that. And if there's anything else that you think that you would like to hear about, or again, any questions that you have, I'd love to share more about my journey. So that is all for you all. I hope that you have a great rest of your week. I'm sending you all so much love and sprinkles of positivity, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.